Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Lock Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Trevor. If you're listening to the podcast right now, you won't notice anything different, but if you're watching, you'll notice the camera probably doesn't look as good and the screen's off behind us, and that's because our camera randomly, something about it broke. I don't really know what happened, but we went to plug in the continuous power supply and fire it up, and,
it's dead.
It didn't want to work. So we'll try to get that fixed by next week. But for this week, we're just using the webcam on our laptop. So not a huge deal. But we do have, I think it'll be an interesting show. We have kind of two main talking points in addition to our segments of Trevor's Trivia and Make That Call. The first being the Foundation End of the Year Awards.
Yes, very prestigious.
Yeah, it's a very coveted title.
Mm-hmm. First annual.
I feel like we did it last year, but I could be wrong there. But basically what we're going to be doing is just giving you different, the player of the year, shot of the year, surprise player of the year, and performance of the year, give our opinions on those. We are going to have to agree because this is the foundation is giving them this title. So Trevor and I disagree currently, but we're going to have to agree on some of these. So we'll have to debate that out. Then we'll hop into Trevor's Trivia, and then over to a great question that was brought to us by Discord talking about at what point are players in their prime in disc golf.
Yes.
So let's just start it straight off with the Player of the Year. Each of these are going to have an FPO and an MPO category. So Player of the Year, FPO. Page. I mean, this one I don't really think we need to debate or make an argument for.
No. It's pretty unanimous. She
was pretty dominant all year. There's not really another player that scratched the surface of her dominance, really. I mean, there's nothing else really that close to her. I mean, Katrina Allen had a decent year. Haley King had a strong finish. Missy Gannon had a decent year. There were some other, pros that won. Ellen Woodboom had a great win. Sarah Hokum was up there some. But every time the story of the tournament was they beat Paige.
Right.
So I think that was a pretty straightforward answer. I don't think anyone would disagree with that one.
No.
Now, the second one, MPO, I think we both agree on this.
We do now, after looking at the facts.
So when we first said we were going to do this, and it was the MPO Player of the Year, immediately, my head, I went Calvin Heimberg.
Yeah, I did too. And I think we actually talked about that like a few podcasts
I think
ago.
we actually
and
said.
And we were like, yeah, I think it would be Calvin. Until we saw stats.
And I can already hear you guys who listen to this podcast and might not like us saying, oh, these guys are just Macbeth fanboys. So I brought statistics to back this up, and a lot of them. Because I think that after looking at statistics, because I was looking at statistics to prove the Calvin Heimberg point, and it proved me wrong that it is Paul.
It's impossible to argue against.
Paul should be the Player of the Year. So we'll look at it category by category. Elite Series wins.
We'll just start off by saying all of these categories, just name each category, and Paul leads all of these categories.
Okay. Elite Series wins, Elite Series top 3s, Elite Series top 5s, Elite Series top 10s, Elite Series average finish, Elite Series harmonic mean, which that's a UDisc thing. We're not UDisc, Ulti-World thing that I don't fully understand, so we're not even going to really matter with that. So average finish, then USDGC finish, he did not lead. Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship finish, he did not lead. Total winnings, he did not lead, but average winning per event, he did lead.
So,
but as far as the finishes and wins, he either
leads every category,
leads or is tied for the lead,
right,
in every single category.
So, with that being said, if you're making an argument for Player of the Year, obviously it's going to be result based because that's how the game works.
Yeah.
So, how on earth can you? And I initially didn't realize it was this obvious, but how could you argue against that? He is tied or leads in wins, top 3s, top 5s, and top 10s.
And average finish.
And
the average finish is by basically a full place over who would be the next closest player in Calvin Heimberg.
Right.
Now, you might be saying, why aren't you considering Eagle in this? Eagle he ties for the Elite Series wins and then doesn't even come close in the top 3s, top 5s, or top 10s, and his average finish is 7th place, whereas Paul's average finish is 3rd place and Calvin's average finish is 4th.
Right. That's all I need to hear for that. Go ahead and try and make an argument against that, but I don't see it.
If we directly compare Paul to Calvin, Elite Series wins, they both have 2. Elite Series top 3s, Paul has 7, Calvin has 6. Elite Series top 5s, Paul has 10, Calvin has 7. Elite
Right.
Series top 10s. Paul has 11 and Calvin has 11, bringing Paul's Elite Series average finish to 3.5, whereas Calvin's is 4.5.
So here's the argument that people are going to make, and because Calvin was the closest to Paul in those categories, and they had the same amount of wins, right?
2, yes.
Yeah. So he's the one you could make the argument for.
You could try to make an argument for Chris Dickerson.
No,
Well, he's the second closest average finish on the year.
I don't think you could though.
Well, I'm just saying, if in my eyes, looking at this with a USDGC win, I would actually say that Chris Dickerson is closer to Player of the Year than Calvin Heimberg.
Wasn't
even is.
Calvin Heimberg runner up at USDGC?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no. My thing is, people are going to make the argument that Calvin could have gotten it, and I would say if he would have won USDGC, if that would have been one of his Elite Series wins, if he would have still been tied with Paul, and he had a major like that, he had the Pro Tour finale or the USDGC, I could have give you that. But like the fact that he didn't, I don't know. I guess I won't be mad at you if you say it's Calvin Heimberg, but it seems to be Paul.
I think why, if you just go off your opinion and gut, it feels like Calvin Heimberg is this isn't the year Paul normally has or we've come accustomed to, which I think we'll talk about some in the prime sector of this. But 2 wins, whatever. But you know his average finish being 3.5, that also sounds like whatever. But there was more
because it hasn't really been Calvin's breakout year, but it's been his first year where he's just constantly at the top.
He's always up there,
Right.
and Paul, we're used to always being up there, and Paul didn't win as much as we're used to.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it doesn't feel like Paul Macbeth Player of the Year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Paul didn't get Player of the Year from the PDGA.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even surprise me, and I wouldn't even like be
No,
that
if
upset
they gave it to
because
Calvin, I'd be like, sure.
Calvin had a great year. But if I was Paul and they gave it to Calvin, I'd be upset.
Yeah,
Because I'd be like,
to know the
look, I
reasoning.
beat him here, 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 here. Like, look at the stats.
Yeah.
Because once I looked at the stats, I was like, as a person deciding the Player of the Year for nothing other than bragging rights that no one will brag
it's also
with.
the highest rated still. So
Yes.
they
Yeah.
get
I
that
don't
too.
like factoring ratings in because that could be as simple as Calvin going to play a C tier one time that Paul didn't play in and that hurting his rating.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's why I don't like ratings being factored in, because then if you're only concerned about ratings, Calvin would, like Paul, never play outside of the Pro Tour really. Or even Paul coming to a B tier at the Battle for Bedford this year, that could have hurt his rating. He's still the best in the world, but you understand what I'm saying. As far as ratings goes, he's the best in the world, but as far as Ricky might play more obscure A tiers, or Eagle might play more weird A tiers that hurt their rating. I hate that, trying to compare players according to their rating, because there's way too many outside factors. I almost said something else about ratings, but I'm going to hold off on that.
Jeez.
There's something that I want to validate that I saw posted on Facebook, that is if it's true about the rating and how much money was paid for the rating system. I saw it posted in a Facebook comment that I would like to bring up if that's true, but I need to make sure before that.
It's out in the world now.
It was in a Facebook comment, so but you can never really trust Facebook comments. So now we're on to the shot of the year. I think Player of the Year, we can wrap it up, right? There's no more really to say about it. Paige and Paul.
Yes.
For our opinion.
Yes.
I think the PDGA might have different opinions, but for our opinion, Paige and Paul. Shot of the year. I want to hear your two, because I think we come at this from a different angle on shots of the year as far as what could qualify for. So FPO and MPO, I want to hear both of yours first before I give mine.
I'm going to give the FPO shot of the year to Haley King's putt to win the Pro Tour finale.
Okay, so never mind. We tied on that one. That was mine too.
And
it was just icy.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. And I'm going to give FPO shot of the year to Paul's ace at Maple Hill.
You mean MPO?
Did I say FPO again?
Yeah.
Yeah, MPO.
Okay, why?
I'm saying that because for a lot of the main reasons, because it was like one of my favorite shots of the year just to watch. I looked back and I was like, where was there some huge shot in one of the big events? It didn't help that there wasn't as many big events this year to like look back at, like especially like not having Worlds. But in USDGC even, like I can't think of like a certain
like
shot that was
shot.
So like because that wasn't there, I was like, what's just a shot that I thought was like awesome this year? And like that was like that hole played super hard. It was eating players alive this year.
I mean, if I'm not going on what I'm about to, if I was picking on a shot that was in a clutch moment or had something to do with the tournament, I'd go Chris Dickerson 17.
Yeah, I guess you
as
could go
that.
with
I mean, because like that is the shot that
Right.
secured
I mean,
him
you
the
could
USDGC
practically
win.
pick that every year, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't like picking that, and that's why I'm not picking that. But I feel like
Yeah.
you could, because like you're right, that shot happens every year. But that could also be the shot of the year every year because that shot normally.
It was just
determines the
super.
tournament.
This one was just super like picturesque, like really cool looking ace. It was super pure. I was
So-
watching it live.
That is also a big part. My shot of the year.
Stupid.
We're gonna have to debate this
That's
because it is also an ace. It's Kevin Jones's ace at the skins match. Now you might say, Hunter, that's not even in a tournament. That's what Trevor's about to try to argue.
It's dumb. It's dumb.
It's not dumb because it was filmed, and not only was it filmed, but it's probably like the most shared shot this year. It was shared on SportsCenter. It was shared on ESPN's Instagram, SportsCenter's Instagram, multiple times, even making them. After it shared it, that did so well, they created an additional post that was just dedicated to disc golf shots, bringing back the Philo Albatross. I think that shot of the year, sure, this wasn't like a deciding moment in a tournament. Heck, it wasn't even in a tournament. It was in a skins match. But I think that shot, if you had to pick one singular shot that did the most for disc golf this year, as far as reach, expanding the sport, I would say it's Kevin Jones's ace where he
when was
fell.
that the criteria? The criteria.
Since when was it not the criteria? We made these rules up.
And I'm making them even more.
Okay, what's the
It
criteria?
should have to be like you should stay within the realm of our sport of disc golf.
This is our sport of disc golf. What do you mean?
No, but not like the outside world's perception of that shot. Like,
Okay.
or else they could think a 90-foot putt was amazing. Here's my thing too. Kevin Jones' shot, while it looked cool, I think overall it wasn't the look for disc golf that I want to see on SportsCenter. Like, I don't want to see a guy slipping off the front of the tee pad and it goes in. Like,
that was a sick shot.
if you look at the comments, nobody was saying in the comments, man, that was a really cool shot. Like, disc golf looks cool. They were like, oh my gosh, it looks like he tore his ACL. Like, wow, like that dude.
But it was still
that dude
exposure.
absolutely ate it. I don't know if it was like the right kind of exposure. I didn't like when I saw that. Like, I was like, I wish we had a cooler shot. Like when Philo's shot was on ESPN, that was cool. Like, if Kevin Jones doesn't slip off that tee pad, does that shot even go in? Probably not.
That's sick. What?
I don't know. It just like I never like thought it was like that cool.
So what's the difference between my shot and your shot?
My shot actually like counted for a disc golf event.
Did Paul win Maple Hill?
Yes.
Was that shot crucial to him winning Maple Hill? I actually don't know if he won or
Wait.
not. I was asking a legitimate question because I couldn't remember.
Right?
But regardless, was that shot crucial?
He went up there north and he played 2 events.
Green Mountain, he lost.
And then he won the second one. He definitely won one of those events up there.
Then that would be Maple Hill.
Are we crazy right now?
He did because
Because he jump putted that one in, on the last hole.
and he also had a bathing suit ready.
Yeah,
to
okay.
jump in.
All right. So there you go.
But was that shot crucial to him winning the event?
Sure was.
Like, was that
momentum?
Was that the shot that won him the event?
Yes.
No. So
Your
the
shot
only
is
no,
stupid.
no, the only difference between your shot and my shot is
I don't
yours.
even need to argue for my shot being like the greatest. Like, I'm sure there's better ones this season. I'm forgetting, but like your shot stinks.
The only difference between my shot and your shot is what I'm saying. They're even at the same course. Only difference between my shot and your shot is yours in a tournament.
Yeah.
It got shared way less. It got talked about way less.
It
It is-
only got shared more because he slipped.
So what is the parameters for that? Like, why
I'm
is
just
that
saying,
like
it's random.
he-
It's random. It's
so
more
since
random
he fell,
and lucky.
Since he fell, it's not the shot of the year.
Yeah.
Just because he fell.
Yeah, if he'd have thrown that, well, also
Just 'cause he fell.
No, because it was in the skins match too. It wasn't in the like an actual event.
But my thing is,
Like, I don't think if you were looking for like a shot of the year in the NBA season, you wouldn't go to the All-Star game
before you said
or
it-
some exhibition match to find it. You would find a match or a shot from an actual game that counted.
then you'd find like a game winner or something. You wouldn't pick some random.
I'm just saying,
you wouldn't pick
mine-
a random
yours
Steph
is
Curry
disqualified.
Three. It's not. It's
yeah,
not
you
disqualified.
imagine looking for a PDGA shot of the year and going to a skins match. It wasn't even in a PDGA sanctioned event.
But I'm looking at it because okay,
It's dumb. Yeah, you know it now.
it's
That
not dumb. I
sounds
stand by it.
stupid.
When you look at when you
No.
think back on 2020, no one will even remember Paul's ace on hole 8.
Why wouldn't
It'll
they?
be shown every once in a while,
Next year when they play that hole, they'll probably replay that shot if they know what they're doing.
and they will absolutely replay Kevin Jones' shot, even if they don't know what they're doing.
I'm just okay. I don't care
In
about
the
this
future-
whole exposure argument.
In the
I
future,
don't care about
no
it.
matter whenever disc golf
I'm
is
saying
shown,
your
people are
shot's
going to be saying
disqualified.
it's not
It
disqualified.
didn't count.
Though.
It wasn't even a real event. It doesn't count.
That's dumb.
Therefore,
That's
shot of
dumb.
the year goes to that par putt that Chris Dickerson missed on hole 17 of the finale. That was shot of the year because he should have won back-to-back majors and he missed a par putt. That was like 15 feet.
No,
Airballed it.
The shot of the year is Kevin Jones.
No, it's not.
Period.
That doesn't count. Disqualified. Man literally slipped.
But okay, whatever.
It's
Whatever.
stupid.
Let us know in the comments down below. We'll let you decide.
I don't even
Or
think
DM us if you're listening
You don't have
to
to
this.
agree that my shot was a shot of the year. I don't even care about my shot. Stupid. Whatever. That is not the shot of the year. Kevin Jones falling off the front of the tee pad.
I don't get, like,
Him-
why is exposure not factored into this? Why do you not want that
It's
factored
not
in?
the right exposure.
Who are you to decide what's the right
I am
exposure?
the final say.
You are not. None of us are.
I don't need Richard Jefferson
Exposure
in
is
the,
exposure
in the
is
comments.
exposure.
I don't need Jefferson in the comments like, oh, that dude just tore his ACL.
That's Richard Jefferson finding out about disc golf.
He didn't know anything about disc golf.
He does now.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
He just
If he
he
hears
just
the word
saw a
disc
man
golf,
slip and fall.
if he hears the word disc golf, he's gonna immediately think back to the shot of the year, Kevin Jones
Like
falling off
that
the tee pad.
sport where guys slip all over the place and sometimes it goes in.
No one's thinking that. No one, and you know that.
I
You're
didn't
just
like
saying
it.
it for the shock
I
factor.
didn't like it one
How do you
bit.
not like it?
I hated it.
You did not hate it. We both
Yeah.
freaked out.
I thought it was crazy, but I wasn't like impressed
Are you not impressed?
because it was
What do you
lucky.
mean?
The man literally slipped.
Every ace is lucky. An ace is a bad.
No.
Yes, an ace is a bad shot
You
that
can't-
found the basket.
That's not true. That is not
Unless
true.
it's an intentional. I'm going for the ace.
Yeah, but
Then
no,
it's a bad
there
shot that's
are
going 40 feet deep.
Some of them, that one that Paul threw in floated into the basket. It literally floated. It would have landed like a foot behind the basket. And
That
been
shot
parked.
didn't matter in the tournament. That didn't.
But
that
you're-
didn't win him the
your
tournament.
comment you just contradicted yourself. You just said that every ace is a
What I'm
shot that
saying
was
is,
40
if
feet
you're gonna
past the
pick,
basket.
if
It's
you're gonna
not
pick
true.
something to argue with about the shot of the year, it should be a shot. If it's like, it's got
I'm
to be
not
in a
arguing
tournament.
for my shot. I'm arguing against yours.
Oh my gosh.
All I had to do, I could have picked any 5-foot putt and it would have already beat yours. It's like longest drive and yours landed 1,000 feet into the rough, so it's disqualified. Mine went 10 feet forward, but it's in the fairway, so it wins. That's the analogy. You have to hit the fairway to win longest drive. You have to actually be
this is
shooting
our
in an
awards.
event.
This
Has
is-
to be in an event to win the shot of the year.
This is our awards. It doesn't. We can make up the
I
own
could
rules.
throw this pillow into the basket and it would win shot of the year if it was sanctioned right now.
No, because it wouldn't count.
Shot of the year.
All right, we're moving on from there. You decided in the comments below, or if you're listening to us, DM us on
Actually,
anywhere.
send us the clips of the shots too, please, so we can look at them. Or like refer us to the links.
No, I want them to decide between my shot and your shot.
Well, that's not going to happen because they both stink. Next.
Okay, surprise player of the year, FPO and MPO. I'll give mine first on this one.
Okay.
On the FPO side, this was actually kind of a toss-up between two players for me,
Okay.
which was Haley King and Missy Gannon. I looked at their years back to close right next to each other, and I decided to go with Haley King, mainly because of her breakout at the very end in the Pro Tour finale. I think that,
Yeah.
we knew she was good. We predicted she would win a lot more events than she did. Pretty much every week we were saying she has a chance to win, but I think that she still, if you look at the year as a whole, was probably one of the surprising stars in FPO.
I wouldn't name her breakout player of the year because next year I think she's going to be breakout player of the year.
This is surprise player of the year. We didn't go breakout.
Okay, next year I think she's going to be surprise player of the year.
Okay, well, I gave it to her this year. I'm a year ahead of it.
All right.
All right. And on the MPO side, it was a little bit more kind of obscure. I was looking at Ezra Adderhold or Kyle Klein, and Kyle Klein had a much better year.
Yeah.
So Kyle Klein, I feel like last year we didn't know his name, like at all.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
So I'm going with Kyle Klein and Haley King. Let's hear yours, and then we can hash it out.
Right.
I got some resentments. Whatever you say is wrong.
Okay. Well, honestly, MPO, I picked Dickerson just because, not because like it's surprising that he's good, but it's surprising to me that he played as well as he did. When I look back at his stats, like he was a top 5 player this year. I didn't know he had that in him.
I think.
However,
to me, well, I'm gonna just say that I understand, but like I've seen Dickerson play multiple times, so like it
Just
wasn't.
so have I.
But it wasn't a surprise to me. No part of that was a surprise.
I
to
didn't
me.
realize he was still going to be able to be that competitive on tour. But
It didn't surprise me.
that being said, I would lean to yours. Kyle Klein was surprising
I feel like he was more surprised
because we didn't know he existed before this year.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah,
Chris Dickerson,
I'm
we
fine with
knew was good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And on the FPO side, I took a bit of a twist to this one. My surprise player is Paige Pierce, and I'm surprised at how
Yeah,
little she
what?
won. I'm not surprised that she had a great season. I'm surprised at how little she won because when I watched FPO, Paige Pierce is still like so good.
But she had a dominant year.
She lost. We decided she lost 6 times. That seventh one was some weird lead. She lost 6 times. I would expect her to lose like twice as good as she is.
But I mean,
compared to the field,
you still have players like Katrina Allen, Sarah Hokum, Lisa Fakis, Haley King.
I think
all of them when they
when
show
I
up.
When I watched FPO, Paige looks so much better.
But she makes decisions on the course, and if it gets into a wooded technical course, that allow the other players to take the advantage on her.
Well, I'm just saying, it surprised me.
Talent-wise, she's. I mean, there's no question that she's by and far the best player in the field.
This is why I was surprised.
But I think that the state of disc golf, both on MPO and FPO, there can't be that dominant of a player anymore.
I think you're wrong. I think while all of the
I'm right on MPO.
All of the European players are still MPO for sure. While the European players were stuck over during the pandemic, and Paige had the field that she had to work with, I think she could have absolutely won every event.
She could have. She was probably the favorite in everyone, but I think it's unrealistic to expect any player to perform that consistently good. And that's why when a player does, it is so shocking.
I expect it.
So, just to be clear here, you're saying you can twist the words on the surprise player of the year enough to make Paige your surprise player of the year, but we can't twist the shot of the year enough to make Kevin the shot of the year? Okay.
That's exactly.
Well, we're completely disagreeing on that. Can we agree on Haley King being the surprise player of the year? Just because I get what you're saying, where it's surprising that Paige didn't win as much as she did. But
the only surprise that Haley King gave me this year was winning the Pro Tour finale, because I was surprised that she kept disappointing me when I picked her top 3 every single week.
But the fact that you're picking her top 3 every week, that's not surprising.
I was only doing it because I saw her throw and she looked like she had legit form, and then she just would not perform. I don't think so. No.
So then who?
I don't even know.
Honestly, I feel like if you don't,
honestly, I would give it to like
Lisa Fakis, Sarah Hokum, and Katrina Allen were like, and Ellen Widboom. I mean, we could look at her.
There were surprise wins on the FPO, but there wasn't like a player who was like.
But this is of the year. This isn't like.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. That's one I don't know.
Performance of the year is coming up, but that's not what we're doing right now.
I mean, fine, give it to Haley King, whatever. I feel like it's like in Cars where they like launch the trophy at the guy after he wins. Just like throw the trophy at him. Like, fine, take it.
All right, final one for our awards. That is clearly
ridiculous
and very unanimous. Performance of the year, MPO and FPO. Lay it on me. What is it? What are you feeling?
Well, the FPO is obviously Dickerson USDGC.
Yeah, that's what I have written down. I mean, that's a massive win for him, and he just played good
and
all week.
FPO, I would probably give it to Haley King in the finale.
Yep. Okay, we can agree.
You could also argue, I'm trying to remember, was it Jonesboro that Paige won by like 1 million?
It was one of those.
I think it was Jonesboro. That's the other one you could argue. And she rated like crazy good, but I think you get the issue with like, because she won 20 grand and it was like the.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like Haley King performance was like in a moment.
Right.
That was like much bigger than just like a Jonesboro.
Right.
And plus, if you look at like performance of the year, Paige's dominant performance at Jonesboro, whatever it was that she won by as much as she did, was extremely impressive. But I think it being Paige that did it dilutes it a little bit compared to Haley King toppling Paige because of how dominant Paige is over the field.
Allegedly. Yeah, no, that's fine. I can accept that.
All right, well, it's time to finish that up. Let us know in the comments down below or message us if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Message us where you agree or disagree with us on the player of the year, shot of the year, surprise player of the year, and performance of the year. We'd love to hear your opinions, and we'll be responding with counter arguments if you provide a valid argument against them, except for the shot of the year, because that's clearly Kevin Jones' ace. On to Trevor's trivia. What do you got for me this week?
Whatever. So I kind of went in theme a little bit. The first 2 questions are kind of award theme, and then the last question is kind of an intro into our next topic on primes.
Okay. Nice.
So, first 2 questions are kind of the same, one for the men's division, one for the women's. So, start with the men's. Since 1994, only 7 players have ever won the men's player of the year. Okay, so what's that, 26 years? Can you name those 7?
Ken Climo.
Yes.
Paul Macbeth,
Yes.
Ricky Wysocki.
Yes. Now we get a little more.
Now we get Harry. Barry Schultz.
Yeah, so you're missing one more obvious one.
Nate Doss.
Wrong.
He's never won a Player of the Year.
Wrong. He is not. He was in the thick of that Climo era, man. It was tough back then to win. And Schultz. Climo and Schultz won so many back then. Because probably whichever one Doss won that
Will
year.
Schustrick, sorry.
No.
What?
It's a tough list. I mean, there's.
I'm trying to think of like the. So did Climo win up to Paul?
No. Climo and Schultz won a ton of them. And then there's a couple littered in there.
That like are just
there's
one-offs.
I think there's 2 people on here that were on there like one time.
Eagle McMahon?
No. And then there's one guy on here that won it like.
There's
one guy on here that won it like 3 times that you would never expect. It's
I really
shocking.
thought Eagle won 2 years ago, 2018. I guess that was Paul.
I think it was Paul that year. I can verify this, but
no, I'm sure you're right. You're right. Jeez. Okay, so who do I have? I have Paul, Ricky, Climo, Kenny.
Did you say Climo Kenny?
I said Climo Kenny. I meant Climo Barry.
You're missing 3.
I mean, it could be like a random.
It's not. Well, one of them is a little random, but like
I was thinking it could be like a Feldberg.
Feldberg is one of them.
It could be. Jeez. So I need 2 more. Player of the Year. Nico.
Yeah, and he's won it like 3 times, I think.
Okay.
At least twice.
Okay.
And there's one more. This is the toughest one. And this one was like scattered right in the middle of the Schultz and Climo era, and is a bit of a mystery.
Is like his name pretty big?
You know his name, but he's definitely not around anymore.
Like a Ron Russell?
That's too old.
Too old. Like
no, Ron Russell actually won the World Championship the year I was born, 99.
Rick Vokes?
No. Maybe we give it to you.
Yeah.
Cam Todd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I know that, actually. I knew that because they announced Cam Todd as whatever player, 2003 Player of the Year or something.
Yeah, I think it was around there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered that, though.
Nico was when I was like, man, Nico cleaned up back then. But
I can't believe that.
Barry won a lot more than I thought he did. Paul has like 5. Ricky
I cannot
has 3.
believe Nate Doss has not won a Player of the Year. He won 3 Worlds. Like, weren't they in a row?
No.
No, his 3 were spread out.
I think he won maybe 2 in a row and then one more. I think he won.
Man,
I forget. But yeah, I think it must have been that every year he won a world title that won like either Barry or Climo probably won US and a bunch of other stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah. So since 1997, only 6 players have won the Female Player of the Year. Can you name them?
97. Okay,
Since
so
97,
it's
only
got
6
Elaine King.
Yeah, and actually, she won in 97, but then after that, there's no more Elaine King wins since 97.
Elaine King for sure. Paige Pierce.
Yeah.
Katrina Allen.
3 more.
Juliana Korver.
2 more. Missing one that's very obvious.
My mind's going blank. So I've named Elaine King. I've named Paige Pierce. I've named Katrina Allen. I've named Juliana Korver.
Yeah.
Who is the other, like... Oh, Valerie Jenkins.
Yep. And there's one more who has a lot of them.
There is one more player that's like... It's in the Elaine King, Juliana Korver type of a...
Right.
Des Redding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
I could not... That was the one that I was stuck on when I said Valerie Jenkins.
I mean, those are like the big 6 names in female disc golf.
That was a lot easier than MPO.
Yeah, MPO is a bit tricky.
I feel like FPO is like... FPO where it is currently, I feel is like where MPO was years ago, where there's still like a singular dominant figure. The line's not obscured that much.
Right.
There was like the Paige Cat era where it was a little obscured, but disc golf like back, like there was a Climo Barry era. You know, there was always like 1 or 2 like dominant figures, and now it's starting to get obscured. And I think that's where FPO is heading. With the likes of Haley King, Missy Gannon, Evelina Salonen, Henna Bloom-Roos, Kristen Tatar, a lot of the FPO players who, like, over the next several years will obscure that Paige dominance. Yeah. Kind of like the Eagle, Calvin have obscured the Paul dominance.
That's a good point.
It's kind of like FPO is just a little bit behind MPO. And I think that it's also, that's kind of why we're seeing a smaller FPO field is as more and more talent comes in, it gets more competitive, there'll be a bigger and bigger and bigger FPO field.
Yeah, it's a good
to where
point.
it fills it out. But
Okay, so the last question here is kind of transition into our next topic about we're going to be talking about players' primes.
Yeah.
So a player's prime can be attributed to many statistics, but it's hard to argue with cold hard cash. In which year did Ken Climo earn his career high in winnings?
And which, like, I need to give you the year, obviously. Which year?
I think you'll be able to get this.
No, I won't.
Yeah, you
What?
probably will. There is a train of thought that you could get on to know this.
I'm not hopping on that train because I couldn't
I
even
think you
tell
will.
you. I couldn't even tell you the years he won Worlds.
But think about its earnings.
Yeah, so it's got to be like his late dominance.
I'm not going to give you hints.
It's got to be when he won USDGC with 15 grand and Jonathan Poole rolled up.
There you go.
But what year
there's
was
the
that?
train of thought. I thought you knew it. I knew it.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
2007.
Correct. There
All
you go.
right,
Yeah,
I found it.
That's yeah.
It was a slow train, but I hopped on.
Yeah, when I was gonna look that up, I was like, I bet it's 07, and he won 40K that year, which is really good for disc golf in 07. And it was, even if you take away that 15K though, he still had one of his better earning seasons. Like he only
25.
yeah, like that was still one of his better ones. But yeah, 40K that year.
40K in 2007.
Yeah, pretty good.
So this next topic of winter players in their prime was brought up by, I actually don't know this guy's, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's username, but it's at DEOXES, Deoxys, on Discord. And he asked us, hey, at Hunter Thomas and Trevor Staub, I have an interesting talking point. Is Paul Macbeth at the end of his prime?
Yeah, this is
So
a very interesting topic.
I think the
point.
biggest part of this question is what defines a player's prime, right?
Right.
Is it the dominance on tour? Because like that's what I was kind of just talking about with disc golf. And since he's asking specifically about Paul, I think we're going to look a little bit more into the MPO. What exactly, like I think the question I want to answer is like, at what point are you in your prime in disc golf? And I think MPO has a little bit more statistics to pull from, and it's going to be just kind of easier to stay in that one spot, because I would imagine when it relates to MPO and FPO, the age should be about the same.
Yeah.
I don't know why it would change, but the biggest question is like, is it the dominance or is it skill? Because up to this point, they've been basically synonymous on tour. If you've been the most skillful, you're going to be dominant.
Exactly. So, like, if you look at other sports, the way they talk about prime is typically a player's health as it relates to their performance. So, like, and typically those things are correlated. Like, typically when a player starts to drop off, Kobe Bryant's a good example of this. You know, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. But when Kobe,
That still seems so surreal.
I know, it's crazy. When
2020, heck of a year.
I
What
know.
the heck's going on? Keep going.
When Kobe was in his, when he started to decline, a lot of that was related to the fact that, you know, he had a lot of Achilles injuries, and, you know, he was just kind of getting dragged down by that. He was slowing down. You know, he couldn't attack the rim as much.
Yeah.
That is what was attributed to Kobe's decline. It wasn't the fact Kobe won his last championship, I believe, in 2010, maybe. It was somewhere around there. Celtics won one around there too, but he was still really good for a few years after. But like, I don't think, and like the same thing with like LeBron, for example, like LeBron in his early days with the Cavs was on some pretty bad teams, even before he took them to the finals, but like he was still like performing. So like in other sports, it seems like a prime doesn't have to do with results as much as it has to do with performance, because you can be, but it's different in golf, because in other sports, like there's a lot more factors.
As I say, basketball, it's
You're on a
dependent
team,
on what your team's doing.
but not necessarily, because you can still go to like points
well,
per
I mean,
game
there's
and things
also,
like that.
I think the only thing you can really compare it to is golf, because even if you look at tennis, which is another individual sport, there's more wear and tear on your body.
Right. And golf, but now golf is...
But you can't directly compare the age. I'm saying as
Yeah.
far as a player's deterioration.
Right. Golf is probably pretty comparable. But golf, I think you can be in your prime even longer than disc golf, because I think a golf swing, you're getting help from technology to propel that ball. So there are guys well into their 50s who can still hit it with 20-year-olds. I don't think in disc golf it's quite that severe where like you could be 55 years old and still be ripping as far as you were when you were 30. But I think it's closer. Like I think your disc golf prime can be a bit longer, because you're not like sprinting full court for 40 minutes every game, you know? You're throwing shots and walking courses. It's strain on your body for sure.
Yeah, but it's a different type of strain.
Right. And it's really like there's one big factor, and it's like how long can your arm hold up?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say my stance on this is that your prime in disc golf is not measured by results.
Yeah.
It's measured by your ability.
Well, I think going forward, that's a very true statement.
Right.
I think if you look at the past, they're one and the same because to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Up to this point in the sport, up to the last 2 or 3 years, if you have been the most skilled in the field and the most like determined or whatever you want to call it, you are also the most dominant.
Yeah, but
see
what
that?
if you were like, but that's only talking about the best player in the world's prime. That's not talking about the guys who
But
are.
I'm saying if you're looking at a player, like the question was directly correlating to Paul.
Okay.
So if you're trying to decide a player's prime, I think you
Right,
can
right.
decide it based on their performance. And you can decide it based on all their performances.
Yeah.
Because of like even a Ricky. You know, at what point is he in his prime? His prime might look different than Paul's prime, you know, but at what point is he performing consistently at the top?
Right.
That can't be true anymore because there's so many more variables in this.
Right,
you have
now-
players like Kyle Klein able to come in 5th at USDGC.
Yeah.
When, you know, whereas a few years ago, a newcomer on tour, that was a lot less
Right.
likely because the competition just wasn't there as much.
And primes are tricky too because sometimes they have more to do with just like your physical health, and they also has to do with things like just like how much work you're putting into the game. Like Ricky, for example, he had the Limes thing. That's what set his game off the rails. He's practicing and working and getting back where he was, and luckily that he's getting there, which is great for the sport. But if Ricky were to at right this instant never get better, he just stayed here, his prime would have been past. It would have been like 2015, 16, 17. That would have been his prime.
Yeah.
So he'd be out of his prime if he never got back to where he was there, ability-wise. But with that being said, like primes can be weird because like you can have guys like Ricky who might have the thing with Limes. He's not so good for a few years, but then he gets back to where he was 2 years from now. And now it's like, is this like his second prime? Like sometimes people argue that sometimes players have like their young prime and then they kind of fall off a bit and then like they work back to it and like in their older age they develop a different game and like have a second prime almost. Like that stuff happens weird. Primes are so heavily debated and odd. I think like the biggest thing to like think about is like people are really just wanting to know like how long is Paul going to be competing for world titles,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's what the question of prime is.
I think they're using prime almost wrong.
Because I think, that's what I was about to say, and I think that's where this question continuously stems from, is when people ask, is Paul at the end of his prime?
Right. They just want to know if he's going to be competing 5 years from now. Like, is he going to be like
Yeah.
at the top of the game?
Is he going to be dominant? No.
No. And
Is he going to be competing at the top? Yeah.
Yeah. It has more to do nowadays. That whole argument has less to do with what Paul's doing and more to do with the field getting stronger.
Exactly.
'Cause
Because field's
all-
catching up.
All the guys before Paul, if we looked back at Avery Jenkins, Nate Dawes, Dave Feldberg, Ken Klein, all these guys, their prime, like when they stopped like being able to compete, was all around the same age, like in their mid-30s, which is pretty young considering like their physical ability. It didn't have to do with the fact that their physical ability had gone down. It was the field that overlapped them. Okay. The forehand era came in, these really like young athletic guys, a new era of disc golf came in and they just swallowed them up. Like they just,
Well, I think
couldn't
that's
compete
one
with those
thing.
guys.
I have a lot of statistics. At
Yeah.
first, I think the first part of the question we're answering right now is strictly in relation to Paul, in relation to like what is the prime, or like what is prime in relation to performance.
Right.
The second half I want to talk about is just like prime in disc golf. Like at what point is a player, because like in basketball, I always heard like a player is in their prime when they're like 28, 29 in basketball.
Right.
That doesn't mean that a player like LeBron can't be dominant into his 30s.
Yeah.
It means like at the player peaks around this age normally.
Right. Yeah.
What is that in disc golf?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I kind of want to look at, and that's kind of where I'm bringing in some of these people and statistics. So if we look at Ken Climo, the most dominant player
Yeah.
in history, he reached his highest rating at age 34. He won his last world title at age 37 and won his last major at age 38.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Schultz reached his highest rating at age 36. He won his last worlds at age 34, won his last major at age 36. Dave Feldberg, highest rating at age 34. Nate Dawes is the anomaly here because I think this is where all of this kind of statistics fall apart.
Yeah. Well, he bridges the gap. Go ahead and read it as
Yeah,
well.
because he's only 35 currently.
Right.
He won his last worlds at age 26.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where what you were just talking about kind of comes in a little bit.
Yeah. He was the bridge between the gap of like those guys. Like if you take Ken Climo and Barry Schultz and those guys and you move them to like Nate Dawes' age, the same thing happens to them.
Yeah.
They might have been a bit better than Nate Dawes even in all of their heyday, but like Nate Dawes got swallowed up because when he was young, he was still in that, backhand, older technology discs sort of age where guys didn't have huge arms and big forehands, and he was able to succeed in that. But while he was still, at like a good physical age to like have good ability, that's when that era started to shift, and that's where he got beat.
Yeah.
If you take those guys like Climo and Barry Schultz in their games, because Barry Schultz, like I've watched him play now, like still a really good disc golfer. Yeah, he didn't have the distance that he used to, but like,
he's still going to smack around
right.
North Carolina pros.
It's just, it just comes down to like the top of the game just got, saturated with guys like Ricky who are throwing 450-foot sidearms. Like it got really crowded up there, and those guys just got beat out. Because
so
I think, go ahead.
No, sorry. So what I was going to say is I think that like when it comes to finding out what's a player's prime in disc golf, like what's the average player where they're at their peak, it's nearly impossible. Because of the fact that, when distance starts to go down,
right.
a player normally is able to, like Johnny McRae, he can still compete, not as much as of like the past year or two, but he was almost 50, I feel like, and, upper mid 40s, and he was still competing for U.S. championships and stuff because he didn't have the distance, but he had the accuracy.
Right.
So if you put him on the right course, he's still competitive.
Exactly.
If which it did, when Worlds fell at the right courses for him, he was competitive for a world title where, he had the chance to win a Worlds and a Masters title in the same year, I think, or something like that.
I also think that
he didn't do it, but he could have age-wise.
I also think that this, era right now, we are just kind of introducing. We've gotten to the point now where I think these athletes we have in disc golf are starting to get like this is like the start of the modern disc golf era. So like Paul, for example, being age 30 now, he's one of the older guys on tour that's like really good and really dominant, and is somebody who cares about his body and like trains. He's gonna be like the first kind of clue into what that looks like. What do primes and longevity in disc golf look like? Like, at age, like as he gets closer to age 40, is he still going to be competing? He's going to be the first guy that we're like really getting a peek into that. And I think he's going to be kind of the example for, and like, if somebody like him falls off, then it's just going to be these other guys are just going to see that and be like, well, we better start taking this more seriously. We better like start putting a lot more attention to our bodies. So
because I can only, if I put in the same amount of work as Paul, I only can make it to age 35.
Exactly.
Or like, whatever it is.
It's going to come down to like how many guys. I mean, you look at other pro sports. I mean, there's guys like Cristiano Ronaldo who are like 37 and they're still running around in the bodies of 20-year-olds because of how much they put into their body. And a lot of that comes with money.
Yeah, I was going to say, LeBron's putting $1 million in his body a year.
Right. I saw Russell Wilson the other day spends $1 million annually because he wants to play till he's 45, which like that's one thing. But even without spending all the money, you can do a lot more than I'm sure some guys do.
Yeah,
a lot of guys do probably. To keep yourself in shape, and it's just a matter of like how long do you want to play? How long do you want to be at the top? Because like I legitimately, I'm a firm believer that the forehand era literally kicked so many disc golfers off the scene. Guys like Nico is one of the rare guys that like he has a bit of a forehand. Don't get me wrong; these guys could all smash me with forehands.
Yeah,
but like we're talking about elite forehands. Like Ricky was one of the first guys that broke onto the scene with like an unreal forehand who used it all the time and was just like beating people left and right with it. Guys like Will Schustrick, Nate Doss are like two really good examples of guys. Cam Todd's another one, yeah. Of guys who kind of got pushed away because they didn't have that amazing forehand. And there's other reasons too, but
yeah, and it was a thing of like adapt or
die,
get swallowed.
Yeah.
And Nico's one of the rare ones in the sport, at least, that has truly adapted.
Right.
He has a solid forehand at the beginning. If you go back a few USDGCs, when he didn't have that forehand, he literally was developing his lefty backhand.
Yeah. Which I really want to see somebody do that, please. I want to see
Nico was good at it, man.
Yeah,
He would do like
an ambidextrous guy get really
hole
good.
3 at USDGC, he would go lefty off the tee.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I think the forehand movement was like that. I don't think there'll be anything like that again in disc golf.
The thumber movement.
Like, yeah, you could say make an argument for that, but I don't think disc golf courses want to design courses that encourage that.
That's not going to happen.
So now that that's happened, right? Now that the forehand movement is in, and everybody knows you need a forehand to succeed. Guys aren't going to get it pushed away from the game just because a new shot type develops. They know what they need. They need to have the distance to compete on tour and all the shots, and then you just got to keep yourself in shape.
Yeah.
And like stay at the top of the game. And yeah, the competition is going to get better. People are just going to keep getting better, but it's not going to be as abrupt as it was, where like guys just disappeared because they couldn't compete with the guys who were just smashing forehands all
Yeah,
over them.
I think it's kind of been cool to like the era of disc golf we live in, right? We can look back and kind of clearly see some timelines. Like we
Right.
can see Climo when he first started, the people that he was beating at Worlds and stuff were not touring professional disc golfers.
Mm-mm.
They were painters and roofers, and
Just like the guys that Michael Jordan beat in the finals.
they all had extra jobs. Are
Continue,
you kidding me?
continue,
I mean, come on.
continue.
That's not at all what we're talking about.
Continue.
Ken Climo, though, he kind of ushered in the tour era.
Yeah.
Because he proved like, hey, not only can you do this, you can do this and make a decent living. And then that opened the door for players like, there was a little bit, I think, of an in-between stage where we saw players like Nico, Shoestrick and Paul are kind of in the same era.
Shoestrick and Nico were about the same time.
Yeah, and Paul. But
Yeah.
but I think that Nico kind of peaked a little before Paul's era began.
Yeah. Sure.
So now I think that Paul has kind of ushered in this, not like Climo ushers in the tour era. Paul ushers in the, I'm going to call it like the media era, the era of professionalism and eyeballs on the sport,
Right.
to where Paul ushers in outside sponsorships. We haven't seen a ton yet, but you can see where the sport is heading that way. And I would think, and from what I've seen at least, this has been kind of led in by Paul because, yes, obviously a lot of this just kind of the chips are going to fall into place no matter who was in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the media treating this sport as real, the post-round interviews. So a lot of this was happening, but to take it to the next step has kind of been happening, and that's the part that we're still in.
Yeah, I agree.
Is this part where disc golf is kind of taking it to, okay, we have the touring schedule set up now. This is being, there's several 30-plus players that this is their full-time job. This is all they do. It's kind of just being ushered in by the Paul era. And what we're about to see next, I would be surprised if we're able to say this player ushered in this era. There's going to be another era, but I don't think we're going to be able to tie it to a player
That's
anymore.
exactly what I was going to say, and I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
I hope the next era of disc golf is there's just a bunch of people.
There might be a player that stands out here or there, but I don't think there will be someone like Climo literally pioneered a big foundation for that Paul was able to build his career on, that led to bigger and bigger contracts, bigger and bigger ways that stuff's being negotiated, agents coming into the sport, people like Adidas even taking notice of the sport, that kind of thing. You can all, I think disc golfers as a whole can kind of attribute that to the Paul era, the people wearing the way they dress on the course, stuff like that. After this era, I think it's going to be, we're still learning a lot about what disc golf's going to be going forward.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's not going to be a one person thing going forward. It's just like in golf.
Yeah.
You saw Tiger Woods is probably the last, maybe not the last, but one of the last one-man shows you'll see.
And you can have a run for a year or two, and that's one thing. But in the sport of golf, there is just too much to it. Golf will always be golf in the sense that it is random. You can lose your game just like that one day. You can just stop making putts, and it happens to guys all the time. Jordan Spieth is a perfect example of this. Jordan Spieth on the PGA Tour, within a few years, that dude had won almost all the majors. I mean, he looked like he was never going to lose. He was the Tiger Woods, and he fell off. And nowadays, he's still a competitive golfer. He's paid very well, and he's around, but he is not what he was during that little stretch. And we're going to see stretches like that, but we're never again going to see. And even Paul's era of dominance wasn't even as dominant as Climo.
No, because that's what I'm saying. It's
so
Climo
it's slowly,
1-9.
yeah, it's slowly getting a little bit less possible for that to happen.
Because Climo won 9 worlds in a row. I think
right.
Disc golf's always going to be, unless something drastic changes, disc golf's always going to be, dominance is going to be by world titles. That's just how it has been, how it's going to be.
Well, you could argue that that's.
And players of the year and stuff like that.
Yeah, other than the weird the anomaly of 2018 when Barbsby won, world titles have been decided by the best players in the world.
Yeah.
They've been won by the best players in the world.
So Climo won 9 straight. Paul won 4 straight. Right? Yeah. 3. 12, 13, 14, 15. 4. He won 4 straight. I would be surprised. I would be surprised if we saw another stretch of even 3 straight.
Right.
I think the next player that's wow, this guy's dominant will win 2 straight. You know what I mean? I think it's slowly going to be kind of filtered out like that because I think it's going to be.
Maybe he'll win 3 of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're never going to see 9 again.
No.
I'd be surprised if we saw 4 again.
Never.
Never. And
Never.
I don't think, including Paul, I don't think anyone will ever get 212 again. that Climo has. I think that Paul, I believe
Does
could
that count Masters though? His 12.
15 and counts Masters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
12 is just pro.
Yeah.
I think Paul could get to like 7, 8, maybe even 9.
I could see 8 or 9. Yeah.
12 is, I think 12 is off the table.
Yeah.
If you ask Paul, he'd say I'm being dumb. That 12 is not off the table. Not only is he gonna prove me wrong, but he's gonna probably get them all in a row or whatever.
Cool.
That's not gonna happen.
Do it.
I'm sorry. 12 is off the table in my eyes because it's getting harder and harder to win world titles.
It's getting harder to win it all.
Yeah, and that's not going to change magically.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is like that type of dominance we're just not going to see. Hopefully, I don't think we took it for granted. I think everyone understood we were in a moment of like, wow, we might never see this again.
Right.
So when it comes to prime, I don't think that number exists yet. I don't think we know a disc golfer's prime yet because, like you said, this is the first era where the sport is established.
Right.
The touring pros are established. This is the era that's going to tell us our disc golf prime.
If your the base of that question is just wondering whether or not Paul is going to be around for years to come, that is true.
Yeah, Paul, Ricky. I mean, Ricky's what, in his mid-20s?
Yeah, Ricky's way younger.
Yeah, Ricky's even younger.
Maybe
so
26.
I mean, these guys. Ricky has 10+ years.
Mm-hmm.
I would bet a lot of money, unless Lyme's flares up. His Lyme disease flares up. Just Ricky as a player, I think, has
all the
10+ years.
Big dogs on tour right now. That like, if you look at the top 5 players, like if you're talking about like Paul, Ricky, Eagle, Kevin Jones, Heimberg, like these are young guys.
Kevin Jones might even have 15+ years on tour.
Well, yeah, same with Heimberg.
Yeah.
So
if you had to wrap this whole kind of segment up before we get into the final segment, if you had to put, if you had to bet your life. Well, not even bet your life. You had to just that got way too serious, way too fast.
Escalated quickly.
If you had to just pick a year and say this is disc golf prime, or like this little range, what would you say?
You're talking about an age range.
An age range. This is when a disc golfer is at the absolute peak,
so let's
and everything after that's declining.
I'm gonna say this number, assuming that most pros, let's say pros are like really starting to fully tour around the age of like 18. Let's just say that for it, really more probably closer to like 19, 20, but. I would say it takes you a few years, and then it could literally be from age 24 to 36. Like, it's wide.
I want it smaller.
No, it's not.
I'm saying
it's not because it's when you say prime like that, like it's based off of physical
I
ability.
Want the peak.
You can be
the average peak. Because
well, then you got to go off just what health people say, and then it's like probably like your mid to late 20s.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 29 to 30. I think
that's probably when you're getting the most of like experience. Plus, you're still kind of young.
I think what a disc golf prime is gonna look like is kind of like you're climbing. You're gonna reach a peak
and plateau for a while.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna reach that. I think the disc golfers will probably reach that around the age of.
Is Paul at his plateau?
I think so. Yeah.
I think he's too.
I think that
He hates that. But
I think Paul's skill will probably look like this. It's here. I think he is about at this point where my hand is still going up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be this drastic improvement that we're going to see.
I'm not going to put a ceiling on Paul
now.
Right now, but
with PDGA ratings, it will not look like that. It will keep going up. Yes. Regardless, as long as a player is continually towards the top of the field, his rating will continue to go up because that's where the PDGA's rating system is broken.
All right, don't get him going.
Rating inflation is a thing. Period.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I want to. I'd wear it proudly to every PDGA event. So regardless, ratings are going to keep going up, by the time an 1100 rated player comes around, ratings will be abolished because eventually people will be like, okay, this is ridiculous. This guy who's 1090 rated is not actually that much better than Paul and Ricky were back in 2017 or 2016. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, I think that 28 to 30, you're going to plateau a little bit. And then how long you stay there is up to how much time you put in.
Right.
I think that players in general will, without putting a ton of effort into their bodies and stuff, will be able to be very competitive at that level to like 35, 36. And I think a player who takes care of himself and does, work out and all of that, keeps up with his body, will be able to be competitive closer to 40.
Sure.
And then I think that is when you'll kind of see the decline in distance is going to be the biggest thing.
Right.
Accuracy ain't going anywhere. Putting ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's distance.
Distance is going to be the biggest thing. And as the sport progresses, that's going to be a big part in competing.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answered the question. That was a long-winded answer. But we're going to wrap it up with the final segment here, which is Make That Call.
All right.
I've got an interesting one for you that I think might fool you.
We'll see.
We will see. At this point, it's just make that call has turned into can Hunter fool Trevor more than teaching you about rules. So this is more of a course design question than like a rules call. But a hole tees off. Okay, you need to really envision this hole because the hole is crucial. Hole tees off. There's a double mando about 40 feet in front of you, straight ahead, double mando. Boom.
Okay.
But then the hole dog legs hard to the left and basically makes a U-turn to where technically from the tee, the basket's way off to the left, but is short of the double mando.
Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Okay. A player on your card throws straight at the basket. So just straight to the left at the basket. He's 10 feet away.
I like this.
He's parked for birdie.
But he hasn't gone in front of the mando.
Made or missed the mando. Does he get to tap out his 2 since he didn't miss the mando?
So the basket, even if the shot lands in the basket, he hasn't passed the mando yet.
He never passed the mando. But he
Okay.
also, he never missed the mando. He didn't make the mando.
I'm going to say that his first shot is fine, right? He hasn't taken any penalties yet. However, the basket, I'm going to say you cannot like make a putt. A putt cannot count if you haven't like taken on the mando. So either like I'm saying like the basket, it exists in like this separate realm apart from the mando. So like he is not able to finish the hole until he's taken on that mando, either made it or missed it. So no, he can't do that.
Correct. So yeah, so the mando
crazy.
The
scenario,
mando
though.
must be made and simply not missed.
Right.
So the mando you have to go through the mando because
Yeah.
Rule 804.1 states a mandatory route restricts the path the disc may take to the target. So basically, a double mando is saying the disc must pass through here, and this scenario actually only works with a double mando because if it's a singular mando, the line that defines like the mando is perpendicular to the like flight or the path you have to go on. So if it's a singular mando that's 40 feet off the tee and you have to pass to the right of it, it would continue where you couldn't cross to the basket. But a double mando passes through both trees or whatever and just continues that way. So if it's a double mando, that's the only way this could actually happen. And it would be very confusing if that happened in a tournament because then the player would be like, well, I didn't miss the mando. And you'd be like, well, you didn't make the mando. And it's like, well, which one is it? It's make the mando. You have to go through.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't design a course like that.
Yeah. That's why I was saying it's more of a course design question because if that rule has to come up, it means you screwed up.
If a hole existed like that, it would have to be like really thickly wooded.
The only hole I thought of was that one at Clemson, right? It goes up the hill into the woods on a locomotive layout, goes up the hill into the woods, and then does a full U and spits you back into the same field with the basket.
The par 5?
Yeah. And the only reason you have to go into the woods is there's one singular mando in there that you have
There's
to.
no mando on that par 5.
It's deep in the woods. You wouldn't miss it. But it forces you to that you can't go just straight up the field.
So you can't go over to the left around it. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's not a complete U-turn. The basket's not behind the tee.
No. But if there was a double mando here,
Right.
then the basket and the tee are in line.
I do. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So that was the only hole I could think of that's like, because that's that one mando is the only thing making you go into the woods to then have to come back out of the woods.
That hole's whack.
The whole only reason we think that hole's whack is because it ate our breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I 5'd it. My team 5'd it. Y'all.
We like 11 it or something.
Yeah.
We fooled around and fell in love. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching, however you could choose to consume this podcast. Please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Tell us what you think. Whether you love us or hate us, we read them all and we appreciate them. If you're here on YouTube, comment down below. Let us know if you have any topic suggestions for this off season. Until the sponsorship stuff starts to pick up, we're going to need more suggestions like Deoxys. I really don't know how to pronounce your name. On Discord gave us, so we really appreciate those. Fire them away at us however you want to get in touch with us, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, or in the comment section or reviews down below. We truly appreciate all of it. And one final thing, I almost forgot. This merch is coming soon. You might have noticed what we're wearing if you're listening to the podcast. Stay tuned to our social media. You will see it soon. But if you're watching us here, this SF hoodie, the foundation long sleeve, and some more stuff, some that we're not wearing that we're hyping up. Trust me, it's going to be sick. I promise you that. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil it. That's all coming soon. You'll learn about it, and I don't think I've ever been this excited for a apparel drop.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, the people we worked with on this project knocked it out of the park, and I'm over the moon excited for it. Yes. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.